record more of his thoughts and experiences. And so this is just priceless for me as well. So thank you.
Sure, honey. My pleasure. Now, I've just been able to start recording right now. So hopefully your
Right.
dad, I think your dad was recording that, as you
Yes.
said. So,
Yes.
okay. All right. Well, this might be part 2. I don't know. Do you have a little time here?
I do.
All right.
This,
All right.
absolutely.
Well, all right. So I'm gonna pretend we're starting over now. Okay. So it's Lou Martin here with Andreana Lefton, who is a devoted practitioner of the Baha'i faith. And Andreana and I just had a great chat with her dad, Andrew, who's quite a character, I have to say, a real charmer and lots of wisdom. And the three of us have been reconnecting after our connection a couple months ago from the Unity World Week, which was a great event. But Andreana, you're a writer. Tell me a little more about that, if you would.
Oh, absolutely. I think I've been a writer. You know, it's one of those things that's kind of you're born in a certain way. You're called from a young age, and so I've always scribbled.
Great.
And I think eventually I realized that it was really at the core of that was really this quality of seeing the world through a poet's eyes. Which again brings this dimension of beauty and wonder and sensitivity, I think,
Sure.
to the work.
Sure.
So yeah, so I teach poetry and writing in groups,
Great.
in schools and universities, also in jails and recovery centers.
Wow.
For
Wonderful.
women and men who have gone through a lot of hardship and suffering, and
Sure.
now are reconnecting to their voice and their truth. And writing is a very powerful tool for healing.
Sure.
And so I have my own writing projects, but also to encourage that in others, and to see the healing and the light in their life has been just a tremendous blessing. Yes.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, so you're a poet yourself.
It took me a while to claim that. It felt a little pretentious, you know, yes, I'm an artist or I'm a poet. I don't know, for a while, it took a while to say that, but yes, I write poetry and yes, I do.
Okay. Who are some of your favorite poets that inspire you? Oh,
You
I
know,
loved your roll of the eyes there. That was delightful. Yes.
so many.
Well,
The
okay.
mystics,
Really?
always.
Okay.
So Rumi and Hafez,
Right.
you know, the Persian poets are always so inspiring. And then in our Western tradition, there's Whitman and Dickinson.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm just always finding poets that I haven't necessarily read the full body of their work,
Right.
but that, you know, a poem will just strike me and inspire me in that moment.
Sure.
So I didn't study literature or
Okay.
English or anything. I
Okay.
studied international relations
Of
and
course.
philosophy.
No one ever
You
pursues
know,
their degree
no,
once they're out of
no,
school. Yeah.
no. Um, so I'm grateful for the degree. It gave me a good foundation,
Sure. Sure.
but no, I am just reading on the fly and picking up things from people like you. You are so great at sprinkling quotes throughout our conversations.
Thank
So
you. Thank you.
I learn a lot from that.
That's lovely. That's lovely. My heroes, just to put my foot in the conversation in
Yes.
this way,
Yeah.
Allen Ginsberg and
Mm.
Lawrence Ferlinghetti
Mm.
and W.S. Merwin.
Yes.
Right.
Definitely. Yes.
Those are some names that spring to mind. I actually got to chat with Ferlinghetti in a hotel room in Santa Cruz
Wow.
for about 5 minutes. That was a great thrill. He's still alive. He's still writing. Do you know? He's 100 years old. Yeah. He actually published a novel for his 100th birthday, which is about the atom bomb, called Fat Man and Little Boy.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
but yes, and I think he's managed to keep City Lights going, which was kind of touch and go there for whatever reason over the last few years. But yes, I mean, there's so many wonderful poets, and of course I adore the mystics. You know, Rumi at the top of the list, etc. Do you know Robert Bly?
I do. I do. I know his work well. I'm also really compelled by some of the living women poets we have right now.
Tell us about
From
them.
our poet laureate Joy Harjo, who is our first Indigenous poet laureate. I mean,
Okay.
so there's a lot of difficulty in our country right now, but it's a
Yes.
shining light that we have such a fantastic poet laureate
Sure.
who's doing
Sure.
so much great work and shining spotlight on our native communities.
Yeah.
And
What do
there's,
you know what tribe she's from by any chance?
I believe she's Cree.
Okay. All right.
I hope I'm
All
correct.
right. We'll go with that.
But thank you for asking, because that's a
Sure.
very important, an important
It's a
thing
thing.
to know. It is, it is
Yes.
something to know.
Sure.
And then there's also immigrant poets like, I hope I pronounce her name right. It's Naomi Shabnai. She's a Palestinian poet
Okay.
who's also based in this country, I think in Texas.
Okay.
She's just, again, this extraordinary, luminous, very, again, the spirit just really shines through
Right.
her
Right.
words.
Right.
So
Kate
there, and
Do you know Kate
yeah,
Tempest from the UK?
I don't think I don't know if I've maybe encountered her work, but no, I'm
Okay.
not sure
All
if I
right. I
have.
hope
Yeah,
I'm like you. I hope I'm getting her name right. She's a she's a force of nature. So, but
mm.
sorry, go on. I
No,
interrupted.
no, no. I could. I don't want to
Well,
derail the conversation
this is the
into.
conversation, my friend. Absolutely, we're having poetry
Uh,
corner here. You know.
no, it's reminding me. I just moved to a new home, and I was unpacking my books, and it's the first time in actually a while that I've kind of had all my things around me. I've been really just moving around quite a lot,
Sure.
and unpacking those books, each one, it was really, again, like encountering an old friend.
Yes.
Just felt such joy every time I saw one, and I could picture, where I was when I read it, what an impact it had on my life.
Right.
And so I think that's where the writing gene comes to me, is not only through my parents, and my mother read to me from when I was very little, and
Right.
my father too. So I'm
Right.
lucky to have that lineage, but
Sure.
also I feel like we have this spiritual genes inside of us, and the
Yeah.
spiritual lineage.
Yeah.
And so each of the books, even if I can't recall them offhand, but
Sure.
each of them is like a building block in my life, for
Right.
sure.
Right. Right. Are you a fiction fan?
I am. I haven't read a fiction
Okay.
book that's grabbed me in quite a long time. So if you have any recommendations, I would
Well,
always welcome it.
bless you. I mean, I have a buddy who is a novelist in the States, and
Hmm.
yes, he did two very good books. He's just submitted his third one, so I'm gonna shamelessly promote him for a second here. His
Sure.
name is David Gillum, and his first book. When you're talking about your Hungarian roots and your family's history from fleeing the Nazis and all that, his first book is called City of Women, and that is set in Berlin at the end of the war. And
Wow.
his second book was called Annalise, and that is imagining if Anne Frank had survived the camps, what would her life be like after that? Oh, it's fascinating. He's a brilliant writer. Seriously,
Oh gosh. Okay, I've got to find these.
yes,
These
yes,
are,
good,
yeah,
good.
fantastic.
I'll
Yeah.
send you the info so you can track them down. We'll get you David to say hello if you like. Even he'd be thrilled.
I would love. Oh, I would
Sure,
love that. I would
sure.
love that. That's marvelous. As I was unpacking my books, I came across a photo I have of Anne Frank,
Ah,
which is now in my office upstairs. So I would just love that. Thank
great.
you.
Sure, I'm delighted. I mean, these are the synchronicities, that make life so exciting.
It's
Um,
so true.
yeah, I mean, honestly, I have not read much fiction for years, except the occasional Dan Brown
Hmm.
page turner.
Hmm.
I'm a big Dan Brown fan, as you might imagine, with where my head is at these days. But I mean, I did. David and I actually met in the bookshops. After I left school, I worked in bookstores for about a decade and did a lot of reading through all of that. And so anyway, we kept each other going with Sophie's Choice and the Tin Drum and 100 Years of Solitude and some of those titles. Yeah, those are stand out as great books.
Ah, marvelous,
Yeah,
marvelous.
yeah.
I'm so I'm yeah, I've been, I think, deeply in the space of poetry for a while, and just
Sure,
trying to school myself.
sure.
But I just remember those days when I was younger, much younger, you know, in my early teens or preteens, and I could, you know, you just pick up a book. For me, it was like A Wrinkle in Time or Madeleine L'Engle's books. I just loved her book so much, and you know,
Right.
just read the entire day away and get lost in a
Sure,
totally another
sure,
place.
sure,
So I was welcome if a book can transport me a little bit.
sure, sure. Well, let me ask you this. Did you ever feel any call to read Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings? Did either of those?
Yeah. Absolutely. So my special sacred experience was
This just gets
Lord,
better, better, Andrea.
right? I
Yeah,
mean, come
yeah,
on.
yeah.
It's a beautiful story. It's a little sad, but ultimately it's really beautiful. So when my mother had cancer when I was 9, and during that time, my father decided that he would read to us, and he chose we chose together the Lord of the Rings. And so for that entire year or more,
Right.
every night he would read to me and my mom too from the Lord of the Rings. And so that
Wow.
became, it was such a lifeline. I mean,
Yes.
it transported me, but also I could relate. You know,
Sure.
whoever loves Lord of the Rings, you know,
Yeah.
you can relate to that journey,
Sure. Sure.
that burden that was carried to Mount Doom. And then when the
Right.
movies came out, and for me, the first movie came out right around 9/11,
Okay.
and or at least I saw it because we were living in Israel, and so I
Okay.
saw it like just right around that time.
Wow.
And it just, again, it just really spoke to the mythic dimension of
Yes.
even these world events that we are,
Sure.
you know, these catastrophes that we're experiencing. So
Sure.
yes, I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan.
Great. Great. So I have not read The Lord of the Rings. I've seen all the films, love them
Hmm.
very much, but
Hmm.
I did read faithfully Harry Potter, each one as it came out, and that
Me
was my,
too.
yes. You too? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, to me, that is, those are the two greatest stories of my life. You know, Harry Potter at the end of all of it was like 4,000 pages long. Yeah. I mean, God only knows how she managed it. But it's like we're saying, hun, poetry and fiction and creativity and imagination, reading and writing and sharing stories, that's what feeds our souls, to my mind. I've just been re-listening to Tim Ferriss has a podcast that I listen to sometimes, and he just had on Joseph Campbell's
Mm.
series, the story of myth, etc.,
Yes.
with Bill
Great.
Moyers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
Hero with a Thousand Faces and all that. So
Mm. Fantastic. That was one of my seminal books when I was, coming of age. You read Siddhartha and you read, Hero with a Thousand Faces, and, Rollo May, The Courage to Create, and,
okay,
Eric Fromm, what
yes,
was it? Something about love.
The
But
Art of
yeah,
Love,
The Art of Love, yes. And so these, existential philosophers and
right? Camus and Sartre,
psychologists, Camus and, Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning.
right?
And again, just these great masters.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yes, Harry Potter, totally. And, and again, through all of these works, the power of love. The
right,
power of love to protect us, the power of
right,
love to see us through the darkest times,
right, right.
and how to say that in a way that's not cliche, in a way that speaks to the complexity of human existence.
Beautiful.
That's a great art. Yeah.
Yes, I've been saying the quote from Camus' The Plague, where he says,
Mm.
the only cure for the plague is the truth. Yes, my friend.
Um,
Yes, yes. This is
I
where the
have
great.
nothing to say to that.
No, I
Yeah.
mean, you've done very well.
Mm.
This is where we're cheering each other on here.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like I look at what's happening in the States. I mean, of course, I still love the States, and I have friends and family there, etc. All of that. And from this, different view of being over here, but. I mean, I did when Trump held up the Bible. I'm just going to riff here for a moment. that was when I spit the coffee over my New York Times, and I said, that is bloody too much. That is it. I've had it. So I hit the keyboard and I put out a 10 paragraph or 20 paragraph essay about all of it.
Wonderful.
Thank you. I think 5 people saw it, but I got it off my chest, so
Good.
satisfying. But it's the same thing right now, where it's like Trump, Russia, Trump. What's left to imagine at this point, my friends? There's a traitor in the White House. That's the title of my next essay. It's we're there. We're everything. There's nothing else. This is it. So that we're all following this guy over the cliff, in the roller coaster, while he's worried about his hair and his ratings, is just it just beggars belief. So. This too will pass, I know, and if you can't laugh, you don't have a sense of humor about it. That's my motto. But it's on the other side of this, I'm sure there are great visionaries and great heroes and great stories and great ideas are going to come out of this. But yeah, it's a battle right now, and
It is, and I just want to go back to that amazing quote you shared with Camus about the cure for the plague is the truth. As a writer, I'm so fascinated by words, and so this whole idea of COVID, the other name for it is a coronavirus, and so I was like, corona, that's such an amazing word, and the definition for a corona is like a concentric circle of light.
A crown of light.
A crown of light. Yes, exactly. A crown of light. And that's part of what this is right now. It is a plague. It is terrible. People are dying. And yet there, like my dad said earlier, these veils are being burned away from our sight, and it's a very painful process and a lot of sacrifice, a lot of people, harmed in this process. And that's where I struggle. I understand the process, and I understand that we're moving forward ultimately, and that, justice is being born into this world. But when so many people, when I think of Syria, when I think of Iraq and Afghanistan and, African nations, it's so difficult to be alive and to not have guilt that so many are still suffering. I have to say honestly that
sure, darling. I hear you, sweetheart. I'm here for you. I hear you. It's my quote. I mean, my quote is from William Butler Yeats, who says, "The best lack all conviction, and the worst are filled with passionate intensity."
Oh yeah.
And it's like, hello, can we get off the fence now, everyone? Myself included, all of us. I mean. This is, like you're saying, hon, this is the challenge, is to feel like we're all doing what we're called to do, to be a force for good in the world at this particular moment, and it's amazing because, of course, I put a lot of stuff up and it gets censored and I get told it's not the official version, and I'm a non-person now because, I've gone against the royal house or whatever it might be. And, I'm like, what? Okay, how do we get into this game? But again, it's like the darkness and the light, are right up against each other in all of us, as you said so truly earlier. And we have to work on our own rage, our own anger, our own self-pity or guilt or blame or shame or whatever it is, and keep putting that on the fire. On the altar, and say, this too, Almighty God, I surrender to you. Thank you for the opportunity to see a little more clearly what your will for me is in this moment. That's my prayer.
That's right. That is so beautifully said and so true, because the moment we start to say it's them, they're the evil ones, they have a rage problem, they have an injustice problem, whatever, it's them. We're just buying into that same age-old mentality of us and them, which is ultimately what is damaging this world and ourselves. And so, yes, the moment we can say, I see that little thread. I see that little thread of jealousy, or that thread of fear, or that thread of scarcity, or whatever that is, and
Sure, honey.
I can trace it back to that little place inside of myself that
Yeah,
wants to shrink down and
yeah.
not to, expand and embrace others. You know.
Yes. Well, darling, I mean, you're just making me so happy over here today, my friend, because really, I'll tell you, in most of the sessions that I do with people around spiritual counseling and healing and channeling and whatnot, that is the core of the pain, the fear, and the wound that people are still carrying and struggling with is, am I good enough to do this? Am I strong enough to do this? Do I know enough to do this, etc.? And we say, what's the Jewish one? If not me, who? If not now, when? You got to go with what you have. But that is it. A lot of us we get in our own way, and that's what holds us up.
It is so true. It is so true. There's a beautiful deity in the Hindu faith, Ganesha, who is
Sure,
considered the remover of obstacles.
sure.
And whenever I think about, that beautiful face of God, which is the remover of our obstacles, I have to always remember that I am my biggest obstacle. And like, how do I start to, dissolve that?
Sure,
And move through it.
sure.
But what you said just now about the fear, the shame that we hold in ourselves, I always go back to this sort of triad of words: scarred, scared, and sacred.
There you
You
go.
know, it's in all of us, right? High five. It's in
Yes,
all of us. It's in all of us. We are all scarred. We are all scared to put our whole selves, scars and all, out there into the world.
right.
But when we do, the effect can be truly transcendent and
Yes,
truly holy.
yes, yes. No,
So
that's
there you
that's.
have it.
I hug and kiss you, my friend. That is
Thank you.
absolutely. You're welcome. That is absolutely God's glorious truth for all of us who have ears to hear. Scarred, scared, and sacred. That's a brilliant one. I like into me you see, intimacy.
Mhm.
That's a favorite
Mhm.
of mine.
Mhm.
And I have
Mhm.
another one which it'll pop into my head here in a second. But yeah, it's to come back to what we're saying here. There's an Eastern teacher. Well, I have to tell you, I have a friend I do a meditation group with tomorrow night. He's of an Indian background, of an Eastern background. He's English at in this lifetime, but he has that cultural bloodline and all that. And he was in India, and he had his spiritual awakening, and when all the lights went on and whatnot, and who was standing next to him, walking along with him, was our elephant friend Ganesha.
Oh,
Yeah, so I can't leave that
beautiful.
reference and not share that message with you,
Gorgeous.
especially his name is DVL, so I'm going to be on with him tomorrow. But sweetheart, the Nisargadatta, who is an Eastern teacher, he wrote a book called I Am That. And someone said, how do we treat the others? And he said, there are no others.
Mhm.
So,
Exactly.
there's so many ways to come at the same truth and try to make peace with it, make friends with it. It's
So
this
true.
is it, isn't it?
It is it. And thank you. So we spoke earlier about how to create this space for each other. And I want to thank you so much for creating this space, both for my father earlier and also for me. Because I think, in the Baha'i faith, as he was sharing, we tend to be a faith of quiet workers. We're there, we're at the grassroots, we're doing our stuff, but we're not really, there's a few people, there's a few who are really spokespeople and who are out there and sharing very vocally, but for the majority, we're not. And that can be beautiful and humbling work, no doubt. But all of us need that chance to say, this is my truth, and I
Sure,
want to
honey.
shout it from the
Yeah,
rooftop
yeah,
sometimes.
yeah. Well, I'm happy to help you shout it. Believe me, you've got a lot
Oh,
to share, my friend.
thank
Absolutely.
you.
Sure,
Thank you.
sure,
Thank
sure.
you. Just so beautiful. And while we're sharing books, one popped into my head as you were talking. One of my absolute favorite translations of the Bhagavad Gita is by Eknath Eswaran. I don't know if
Yes.
you've ever, such an amazing scholar, and I
Okay.
know he's a teacher in his own right,
Yeah.
but his language is just so extraordinary. And so for anyone on this path, I think it's just essential
Sure.
reading.
Sure. Sure. Well, I have to tell you, you know, so I went through. So my dad died when I was 17, and yeah, he was actually he was killed by somebody. He was murdered.
Oh my God.
Yes, yes, yes. So, but anyway, that's just the background of that. So then I went through 4 years of four different schools in 3 years, looking for a right college and whatnot. Couldn't find anything that fit, so I left. Then I did the bookstores for years, as I was saying, and then I went to a spiritual bookstore, and that's when I started to get into all of this stuff, and that's when I started to meditate, and that's when I had my spiritual awakening and meditation, whatnot. So, hun, we used to sell a lot of Eswaran. So I've seen this translation now. I'm inspired to definitely pick it up. Do you know about Ram Dass and his teacher Neem Karoli Baba and his book Miracle of Love?
I know about Ram Dass, but I haven't read this book. No.
Well, there's one for you, my friend. Yes,
Thank
yes,
you.
you're welcome.
Wonderful.
Yes, yes, because it's all the stories of people dealing with Neem Karoli Baba, who was quite a rascal, evidently, and was very good at like we were talking about here, helping people see where they're stuck, and helping them to begin to let it go. And he certainly did that for Ram Dass, and Ram Dass was a great inspiration. And I got to chat with him a few times in his life, and he just passed over this December, so that was quite powerful. Have you looked at his work, Ram Dass?
A bit, not as much as some of the other teachers, but I'm inspired to now. So thank you.
Sure, sure, sure. Well, excuse me, there's so many to choose from. But
Oh.
as we come down the home stretch here for you and me, my dear friend, let's definitely plan to do this again sometime soon.
Love that.
Okay,
Yes.
that would be
Yes,
brilliant. And
absolutely.
thank you, thank you. It's a joy to know you. And if people want to find you, your writing, your workshops, how do they find you?
So you can go to my website is probably the easiest. My email and stuff is on there. You know, you're welcome to people are welcome to contact me with any questions or ideas. So my my website is aelefton, that's Lefton, .org.
Great.
And so I'm there online, and I'm on social media, but not tremendously. I'm more of an old school like email person. So
Okay.
I always welcome people to just email me, and I'll
Okay.
respond.
Okay. Do you want to give us your email as well?
Sure. So the email that I usually go with is storykindler@gmail.com.
Well, no wonder I had to ask for that. I couldn't miss that opportunity. That's brilliant.
Right. Right. So
That's
yeah, just
gorgeous.
I consider that sort of my role so often is not to tell people stories. I'm not a storyteller, but I like to just kindle that little ember, that little spark, and then when you see it and it just illuminates, and that is the joy of joys. So
Sure,
yeah.
sure. I quite agree with you, darling. When I can be a part of helping somebody else get lit up, then I just feel all sorts of blessings come from that. Just like you and me and your lovely dad hanging out here today. Thank you.
And very blessed, and very honored by this conversation. So just thank you for what you do, and welcoming this. And I know my dad feels the same, and I'm just so happy that we connected in this way. And there you have it.
Yes, brilliant. So good. Let's do it again soon. And I'm gonna leave you go, and you can get on with your Saturday, and I'll do the same. And thanks again for being on such beautiful night, and being on this journey here with all of us. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Andreana.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you so
darling.
much. Such a blessing, and to all of your listeners and
Yes.
watchers out there. Just so grateful. Thank
Pleasure,
you.
pleasure. We'll do it again, sweetie. Have a wonderful
Sounds great.
evening. Okay.
You too. You too.
All right.
Take care.
All right, you too.
Bye.
Cheers for now. Bye, honey.
Cheers.